Thank you all for having me back. So I wanted to pick a subject that I thought was kind of polarizing for the time and discuss ways on how you can tame inflation with urban regenerative agriculture. But what is urban regenerative agriculture? Next slide, Dorrona. It's funny naming, what our grandparents used to do, but this is what we're doing. So anyway, a sustainable approach to growing food in cities that restores soil health, reduces one's carbon footprint, promotes biodiversity, conserves water, and aims for zero waste, all while strengthening communities through eco-friendly practices. That's but basically what our grandparents and beyond used to do and how they used to live. Next slide, Dorana. Okay, so I've just kind of shortened things down to these six ways that we kind of attack inflation. I'm gonna go into them a little bit in detail. I'm gonna talk about what little money we save and how we actually use these to actually beat inflation and starve it off for another day. Next slide, Dorana. Okay, first one is Bokashi composting. It's a Japanese method developed in 1980 in Japan. And it's basically composting with bran fermentation. The big deal about Bokashi composting is you can compost your cooked food waste, whereas we used to just throw it out. Now we have a way of breaking it down and returning it to our garden to be nutrient dense soil. It also gives us a liquid fertilizer that we can use to fertilize our garden. Next slide, Ron. So what bokashi is kind of like bran flakes that they infuse with microbes. And so the picture on the upper left, you have a bokashi bin that you scrape your food scrapes into, and you sprinkle the bran bokashi over it. And that's all you have to do. The next time when you have more food scraps, you come back to your bokashi bin, you scrape more of your food scraps into it, and you sprinkle more of the bokashi on top of it. And you keep doing this until your bin is full. The microbes, the fungus, and the bacteria that's infused in these bran will come out into the food and start breaking it down and preparing it for the next stage in your garden. And so the image on the right is just showing you what it looks like when you sprinkle some of the bran on the bokashi on the food. The picture in the bottom is under a microscope 40 times where you can kind of see the little small circles. Those are the microbial colonies that are on the bran flakes that eventually spread out into the food and start breaking it down. So that's pretty much how Bokashi works. And so next slide, we'll talk about what we do once your bin gets full.
Oh,
Oh
I
yeah.
need this. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Now, so when you're doing this and your food is breaking down in the bin, you'll get a nutrient-rich fertilizer. And so what I do is I just take about a tablespoon of this, add it to a gallon of water, and I fertilize my entire garden with it. Okay, next slide, Dorana. Okay. Once your bokashi bin gets full from all the food scraps, cooked food scraps, you let it ferment for about 2 weeks. Then you bury the compost in the soil to complete the decomposition process. When you cook food, you change its structure and it's not quite ready to go back into the garden. So you kind of have to break it down. You can break it down by it rotting, which is kind of smelly and uncontrolled, or you can break it down through fermentation. And that's what bokashi essentially does. So the last stage to get bokashi ready, you just bury it in your garden. About 2 weeks later, it'll complete its final process and it becomes humus, and now it's ready for your plants and to be taken right up for nutrients.
Wow.
Okay. Next slide, Rana. Okay. Bokashi is faster than traditional composting. And what I mean by traditional composting, I mean just piling some compost or some waste outside in a pile. That usually takes about 3 months or longer to completely break down and be ready for your plants. Whereas Bokashi, you can have it done in 2 months.
Oh my God, I need that.
Yeah, it's real convenient. More types of food can be composted, like all your meats, your bones, your dairy, anything you cook can be broken down with bokashi.
So even bones, I'm sorry, I should be interrupting, but
Yeah, even bones. Yeah.
okay.
So since this
Meat
food is,
eaters.
yeah, right, yeah. Since this food would normally be thrown away, there is a gain in material composition to your garden. It's extra compost and nutrients that you've already paid for that you can get a benefit from. So with Bokashi, we save about $60 a year. And we say, trash man, stay away, because you'll notice as you start to keep and recycle some of your waste, you throw out so much less waste. Our green trash can may get rolled out maybe once a month, twice a month at the most, you know. So it makes a huge difference. Okay, excuse me. Next slide, Dorrona. Okay, the second is composting raw foods. This is kind of one of my favorite because we use worm bins we bury in our garden, and we put all of our raw food scraps into these bins. So the worms and the bugs, they come out from the garden and they come into the bin, they break down the waste, and it's pretty much done for you. And it's really easy to do. It's literally you're just burying waste in your garden, and it's broken down in 2 weeks. And you get very nutrient rich and microbial rich soil. And if I haven't said, the microbes, I keep mentioning microbes, these are what breaks down the compost in the soil and makes nutrients available to your plants. So having a lot of microbes in your garden is a super benefit. It's how you really make your plants strong and how you bring the nutrients into yourself. Okay, next slide, Dorrona. Okay, see if this video plays. The video on the left, or the picture on the left, I don't know how it's working, but you can see some of the worm bins we've had buried in the edge of our gardens. This is where we put our raw food scraps. The video on the right, or the picture on the right, is kind of you taking the green lid off, and you can see the raw food scraps inside. You can see the worms crawling up, starting to break it down. So in 2 weeks, these things are completely broken down and ripe and ready to be added to your garden. So this is how we handle all of our raw food scraps. Okay, Dorrona, next picture.
Wait, honey, so can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay, so the worms I see moving in this video, isn't that really important that you see them kind of live and doing their kind of thing, moving around instead of just kind of being a little slower?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like if you order worms from a
Mm-hmm.
company, they'll come kind of slow and
Yeah.
dehydrated. They have to get active. And then sometimes if you take the lid off and expose them to the light, they start moving around a lot more, kind of like these ones started doing. So they
Ah,
don't like the light, whatnot. But you usually don't see the worms. They stay deep down under,
right.
come up. It's very rarely come up. And I used to keep the worms inside of the house, but a lot of flies. It became kind of problematic, and I found a much better solution is just bury them in your garden, and that way
Okay.
you can control your compost and your nutrients that way better.
Okay.
And pay attention. You can see on the right, you can see how the banana peels and stems. And I think the next slide you'll see kind of how it looks once it's completely broken down. Next slide, Dorrona.
Got it.
Okay. So you see, that was just this morning. That was taken out of the worm bin. You can see it's completely broken down.
Oh my God.
And it's just every time I grab some of it, I'm kind of amazed at how well it works. And so if we were to zoom in more, we'll see colonies and colonies of castings and microbes and bugs and whatnot. It's really active. And the beauty about raw composting like this, you just give it right to your plants, and it's instant fertilizer, like a Zap fertilizer to you.
And you said that picture is from this morning?
Mm-hmm.
That's why you sent me a new
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I need
Okay.
to come live with y'all.
Next slide. Okay. So this will cost us about $200 a year if we was buying this compost and fertilizer for our plants. It's full of castings from worms. It's full of microbes. So every time we add this to our plants, we're infusing our garden bed with a bigger diversity colony of microbes to further break down nutrients. Make better harvests, bigger bounties.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next, Rana. Okay, the third way we attack inflation is we mulch our yard scraps. We use the clippings as compost, or we use the mulch to help soil moisture and suppress weeds. Either way, the mulch breaks down and adds nutrients to our soil. And we have enough clippings to mulch our garden twice yearly. So with basically 3 mature trees, we can mulch those up where we don't have to buy outside soil anymore. So we can just pretty much rotate our crops and our soil between garden beds for trees where we're close to pretty much independent of having to even bother the soil. And it's kind of advantageous because we know what our soils are actually made of. Next slide, Dorrona. Okay, so I'm not sure if the video is playing, but this is just showing me mulching up some of the wood chips in the yard. The picture on the right is showing, okay, after they're mulched up, this is what they look like in the garden as a mulch or as a soil topping. And so twice a year, this is what we do to add our compost and for our garden for the growing season. I hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we were just buying mulch, it will cost us about $150 a year.
Wow.
Next slide, Ronna. Wish the videos played better, but
yeah, they did play.
Okay. Okay, this one, make unique fertilizers. So when we throw out some of our waste, some of the things we organize, and you can see wood ash, chicken poop, orange peels, eggshells. And the reason why we do this, because sometimes when we make in particular different teas, a plant may need different soil requirements. And so when you kind of have your nutrients broken down this way, you can kind of build the exact soil mixture you need for that specific plant. It may come from a different environment. So instead of just throwing it in the trash, we just throw it in a particular bucket, and whenever we need it, we can just go get our compost that way. And for example, if we need some calcium in the garden, we know we can just get some eggshells and just sprinkle it around the plants. If we need some heavy nitrogen, we can just go grab some chicken poop and just give it to the plants. So we can diagnose our plants a little bit depending on what they need.
Wow.
And another advantage of this is that since we do keep our chicken poop and our fish poop, these also have unique microbes that help further break down nutrients and unlock more nutrients for us. Now, depending on the savings vary when using this, depending on the type of plants you're growing. So I really didn't calculate a number, but it can range, if you had a special plant that you need to go buy some specific compost for. So I would estimate $10 to $100 a year, depending on, what you need. You can save on this. Okay, next slide, Dorrona. Okay, the fifth thing we do is we collect our rainwater and gray water. We even collect some of our AC runoff. We save quite a bit with this because in the monsoon season, the AC is on all the time and it puts out a lot of water, almost like 10 gallons a day. And so this helps offset quite a bit of our water cost, as well as drinking rainwater. So if we had to go get water and bring it in, it'll be about $550 we estimate we save. Next slide, Ron.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about rainwater?
Yes.
I don't want to say is it safe, but I have never thought about just collecting rainwater. What is the benefit of drinking rainwater? And is there times you shouldn't?
Well, I would say always drink rainwater. It's probably one of the best waters on the planet to drink. The structure of it is really good. You remember sun tea?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because the water is getting blessed by the sun, which is affecting its structure and it's storing in energy. And of course, when you drink that sun tea, your body knows how to unlock the extra energy in the water. Well, rainwater, all these waters that have natural structures are very beneficial for us to drink. So a lot less contaminants than tap water or water coming out from a manufacturing plant, and it's free. So, and we do have good ways that we can clean it where it's pretty simple.
And then,
Gotcha.
Hanif, there's a question in the chat. It says, if I only have a container garden on a balcony above ground, how should I do a worm bin? I am renting and can't have anything at ground level.
Okay. I would do raw composting. There's smaller bins that you can buy to bury them in your let's say like if your balcony garden is maybe about 8 inches tall, you will get a container maybe about 6 inches tall and use that to bury your raw food scraps inside of that container in your garden. And you'll buy some worms. And as you buy the worms, they'll crawl in and out throughout your garden and breaking down waste. And you can also do bokashi. You can bury your bokashi on the opposite side of the garden as well.
Okay.
So.
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. Next slide, Dorrona.
Okay.
So Ayana's question. So this is how we clean our water. We have 3 different ways that we clean it because we have 3 different things we may do with the water. But we have a sand filter. The picture in the middle is just 2 carbon filters with a UV light to help sterilize the water. And on the far right is a Berkey filter. The sand filter, we just clean all water this way because it comes off the roof. It's coming out the gutter. So it's just, dirty, really dirty. So that's the first stage of cleaning the water. The next stage of the water is cleaning it with the 2 carbon filters and a UV sterilizer. Each one of these does make the water potable in order to drink, but we only drink the water coming from the Berkey because there's different levels to clean. So the sand filter, that's water that I'll send to my trees or my plants. The device in the middle is water that I use to clean for my hydroponics or aquaponics, anything of that nature. And then the Berkey is the water we drink and we cook with.
Cool.
So that's how we clean the rainwater. Okay, next slide.
I have another question.
Oh,
Sorry.
sure. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
With I'm just very intrigued, and I'm overwhelmed at seeing all that you do because this is just fantastic. With the Berkey, in Arizona, how much rainwater are you getting to be able to cook and drink?
Quite a bit, 6 to 8 inches. I mean, everybody around the country laughs at us because I'm proud of our 6 to 8 inches. But if you know how to use it, underground irrigation, Oyas, and so forth. So to give you an idea, I have one of my garden beds I have, let's say, 8 4x8 beds. And I have Oyas in those where I water with underground irrigation. In the wintertime, I can completely water that entire garden with just rainwater. I don't need to even turn the city water on. So that's just what Arizona's measly 6 to 8 inches, So if you had other type of garden beds, like wicking beds that have a little bit of a water reservoir underneath, you can actually do quite a bit of rainwater even in the desert, quite a bit with rainwater, even in the desert.
And then, honey, I'm just asking, but you can say no, but I'll just roll over to your house whenever I can. But it would be really cool sorry for those who don't live in Arizona, but it would be cool to see a tour. I've toured, but you've done some new stuff, but I don't know if you all will offer that to us. Can we come and see it?
I mean, I would say yeah, but I gotta ask the boss.
Absolutely. Quita.
Right. I gotta ask the boss.
Yes. Quita is the boss, y'all, if y'all don't know. But yeah.
So yeah,
This the backyard. We just want to see because I'm telling you all, it is amazing to see. You were a civil engineer, honey. Mechanic engineer. I always mess you up. I'm sorry. But I've seen how he built the whatever capture the rain around the house, and so that's how he gets so much of it. So yeah, it'll be cool to see. But anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, next slide, Dorrona.
Okay. I'm sorry, we're slowing you down.
No, it's all good. So, okay, lastly is seed saving. You would think that saving seeds wouldn't save that much money, but you'd be surprised because a lot of times you're replanting the plants because they didn't make it or because birds get the seeds. We have tons of birds and they love seeds. And we were planting in our garden, but the birds figured out that we were planting seeds. And so they would start to get the seeds we planted. So it forced us to have to plant inside the house to sprout. And so we would take our seeds out, we would take our sprouts out, and we would plant, and we would find that the birds would start to attack the baby sprouts and get the small seeds that had sprouted. And they would dig underground and they would start attacking, and so plants would die. So we realized that we need more seeds than we thought, you know. But anyhow, when you're constantly replanting seeds multiple times, you start to see that it does add up. But the beauty of collecting your own seeds against inflation is that you know the quality, you know they're GMO free, you know they're organic, and you know what they can produce. So it's kind of like a security that is really hard to put a price on, you know.
And then, honey, if you all sell seeds on greendesert.org, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Because I've bought, just so you all know, I don't buy my seeds from like a main store or whatever. I buy them from greendesert.org because I know they're organic and I always produce. So I'm just saying they have really good quality organic seeds. So just
appreciate the shout out, Dorrona.
You're welcome.
All right, next slide. Okay, so seeds do follow commodity trends. It is a commodity. So you can expect commodities will get more expensive. Labor costs to process those seeds is going to go up as well. So that's going to add to the seed costs. And of course, seed varieties are decreasing. So that will definitely make seeds go up. So we anticipate if we had to buy all the seeds that we was planting, and it would cost us about $100 a year. Okay.
Do we know why the variety is decreasing? What's happening with that?
Yeah,
that you know of.
Yeah, that I know of is that the big companies are buying up the small companies and shelving some of the varieties in place for some of their more efficient seeds.
Dang it. Yeah. Okay.
That's another reason why it makes, keeping your seed, library up okay. So, all right, to recap, we kind of talked about these things. And so if we sum up the savings we get close to almost $1,400 a year. Now, for some that may be a lot, for some that may be negligible. That savings is not the point. This is savings that's recaptured from things that we were just going to throw away. And so this savings finances the next stage in attacking inflation. So what we have to do, we're going to install by the end of this year some rainwater diverter guns, and it's basically, they call it first flush. When the rain first comes, the first water coming through the gutters, it's really dirty. So you don't really want to be bothered with their water. So they usually have a first flush where they flush the first 5 gallons. And so it's just kind of a couple apparatuses that tackles it, diverts it, And so by this savings that we've gotten, we'll now be able to go purchase the diverters. But why is that important? Is because we didn't have rain diverters installed in the first place, we spend a lot of money cleaning our water. We go through filters often. So by installing this rain diverter, we're going to spend less money on filters. And so it just continues the cycle of just beating inflation. Of course, the real bounty is the produce, but we're just talking about attacking inflation through things that you would just throw away. Mm-hmm. Next slide. So I don't know if this video is going to play, but
yeah, it's playing.
Okay, so this is the bounty that comes out of just from some of the savings of just throwing things away. The most nutritious, dense foods, because it's coming out of soil that's highly nutritious, little to no expense to produce it, zero waste. And because it's zero waste, the carbon footprint gods will love you, It's almost completely zero waste.
That looks amazing.
Yeah, this what we did, and the convenience, this is what we took to Texas, Dorrona. We were going to Texas to do some work out there. And so we harvested a bunch of our food, put it in bags, and we took it out to Texas, and we didn't have to bother going to the grocery stores when we were there.
Wow.
So it was very convenient. So on next slide. So when you put it all together, I call this the lifestyle engine. And so when you start in the upper right hand corner in the red, you're going to start with some produce or a dish you may have made, and out of it you get some scraps. And now that we know we can compost and break all of these scraps down to eventually get them back into our garden. And this is money we've spent. So we're going to recapture in these costs over time and produce better and healthier gardens. So now we know we can break this down with traditional compost, through Bokashi composting, or through worm composting. And out of that process, we're going to get some microbes, and we're going to get some fertilizer, and we're going to get some soil. And all of this goes back into our garden. And from that, we get more produce, which again, we know how to break it down. So you see, this is an engine and just keeps on going and going and going. And the same way with the rainwater. We bring in rainwater or AC water from the runoff, and we clean it as well, and we introduce it into the garden via underground irrigation. And so over time, we're just building more and more and more out the garden. And as we attack inflation, it finances the next stage of whatever we're doing, whether that be if we choose to buy silver to preserve our purchasing power, or gold, or invest in stocks or bonds, or more elaborate fruit trees to bring about more health. So that's kind of how it looks when it's all put together. Hope that makes sense.
I like that. I like it.
Okay. I think that's about it. Let's see, next slide, Dorrona. Most important part, the waste is just as important as the product. There are molecules too, and nature knows how to rearrange them. And to your advantage, you can just participate in the process and save yourself some money.
Now
Next
look at
slide.
that. That's it.
That's it. That's it. Hope that made sense.
Yes, it did. Thank you. Any questions? Does anybody have any other questions?
I'm already looking up Bokashi and how
Yeah.
I could get started. This
Yeah.
is awesome.
I need that. Honey, do you have any tips for summer gardening? Because it was a terrible summer gardening year for me. The only thing that I have left is basil and watermelon. It didn't actually produce, but it's still viney and green, but I just didn't get what I wanted to get out of it. So I kept saying, I quit. I'm not going to garden in the summer anymore. But I all of this other stuff I think will help. I'm not doing the teas like you told me I should do. So what do you suggest?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a lost cause.
I would say definitely you want to fertilize once to twice a month.
Okay.
You got to do that. You can try the mulch on top. Get some straw bales or just get some mulch, whatever, and just put it on top to kind of keep the water underneath and keep the roots cool. And shade cloth.
Okay, that's what I
There's so
need.
much you
That's
can
what I
do.
didn't do.
Yeah, I mean, don't get yourself down. There's only so much you can do at 115 when it's 7, 8 days in a row.
Yeah.
But there's ways. Definitely fertilize. Definitely try to keep introducing as many microbes into the soil as you can, because they really unlock so much and make it available for the plants. And when they unlock the proper nutrients, the plants can take up the proper things to heal you. So it's really about the microbes, mulching the beds, keeping the water and the roots clean.
Yeah, I do good in the cooler weather. Like I love greens, so I bought the mustard greens from greendesert.org and planted them, and they did really well. And then I cooked them. And I have to tell y'all,
Yeah.
whoever know how to cook greens know when you cook greens you buy from regular grocery store, it takes time to cook. It takes a little bit longer. I put them things in a pot and they were cooked in no time, and everybody in the house was raving about how good they were. And I told Honey, I don't have enough. I need a whole bed of greens. I'm just saying, well, it wasn't enough for my family. But yeah, so it's just the food is just so much more amazing when you are planting it and growing it yourself. and harvesting that. And I just feel so proud. I got tomatoes and I was so excited, so I just feel really good. That is my stress reliever, is going into my garden. And so I thank you and Quita for helping me get started, because I didn't think I could do it because I wasn't very good at keeping stuff alive.
Yeah. And I would say, the best way to take advantage of all this is if you're buying organic foods, because you get a second use out of them. I know some people feel organic foods are expensive, but you get a second use out of them, and you get them put into your garden, giving you return on investment years after you bought it. So it's kind of worth the sacrifice. And even when we go out to eat, we make sure we go out to restaurants where we know that we can utilize the waste of it, because I mean, it's kind of just a necessary evil for us now, because we'll think if we need some potassium, we go buy bananas, because we know that the hulls are going to give us potassium.
Mhm.
So we think with the end in mind, and you get a bigger bang for your buck if you can kind of get on that level, in
Right.
due time. But just it's just something to think about.
Really good information. Anyone else?
I'm just going to stress how important it is. You go to their website, greendesert.org. There are recipes, there's information. I'm just scrolling and I'm like, this
Yeah.
is phenomenal. So,
Green Desert also has a YouTube channel where they do off-grid too. So
mm,
they have planted container tiny homes off-grid. So go and check out those videos. Those are really cool to look at and see. My husband and I bought land up north, so we're looking into putting something on the land so that we can go up there and stay in cooler weather, because it's 20 degrees cooler. And I want to garden up there, I'm just saying. But they have information where they have seeds for the moringa tree, which is like a life-saving tree.
mm-hmm.
It has so many properties that are so amazing for the body. So yeah. So anyway, yeah, it's a wealth of knowledge on the website. So thank you so much, Hani, for coming and talking to us today and sharing with us. And tell Boss Lady we appreciate her. And I'll be talking to y'all
Pulling
soon
up.
about a field trip.
I appreciate y'all for having it. I hope I made sense, and hope I
Yes.
can inspire more gardeners out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if I can garden, y'all can garden. Because I didn't think that I could do it, and I could do it. So if I could do it, you all can do it for sure. With the frustration, and they answer questions on the website and all of that. I mean, I have a direct connection, because, I just will just text y'all and bug y'all about what is this plant? Because I have stuff that'll grow in my garden and I don't even know what it is. And so I'll send them a picture and say, well, what is this? I don't
Yeah.
know what I planted. Where did this come from? Type thing. But yeah, they're really helpful with the gardening. So we really appreciate you all coming.